Hi, welcome everyone. My name is Dave Yoster. I am the President of the Managed Service Provider Association of America. Today, we are joined with Chris Filicello from Keystone Cyber Protection. How are you, Chris?
Hey, Dave. Good afternoon. How are you doing today?
I can't complain. Thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
Thanks. So, Chris, you are from Keystone Cyber Protection. Can you tell us what is your role and what is exactly that does the company do?
Yeah, so my role, I'm Vice President of Marketing and Sales, but my favorite part of the job is when I put on my sales training, security awareness training hat, where we teach people on how not to get hacked. Keystone Cyber Protection is a cybersecurity company that focuses 100% on cybersecurity, and we partner with MSPs, managed service providers, to offer cybersecurity services that they may not already offer. And we work in partnership with them to ensure that their clients are as safe and secure as can be.
So, Chris, you mentioned two things there. You mentioned cyber awareness, which I think everyone needs nowadays, but you also mentioned cyber services. What is the difference there with your services?
Yeah, so when we work with clients, we do the basic three, is what I like to call it: phishing
Okay.
tests, security awareness training, and risk assessments. They virtually happen at the same time. Typically, we send out a phishing test to a company to see how many people would click on potential malicious email. And then we give that feedback to the leadership and we show them, hey, if this was a real cyber attack, this is how many of your employees would be hacked right now. Let's do a live in-person security awareness training. Usually it's me or the owner of the company. We go out there in person and we have a very fun, live, and interactive security awareness training program that we do. It's usually less than an hour. And I can't tell you how many times people have come into the meeting, dragging their feet because it's another security awareness training. But when they leave, they are super excited. They're on board with cybersecurity. They usually say, I got to tell my husband, my wife, my kids to change all their passwords, and I'm going to hover over all the links on all the emails coming in. So that's the second part of it. And then almost simultaneously, we do a risk assessment. So for the overall security posture of the organization, we do a very thorough risk assessments interview base where we meet with the CEO, the C-suite team, the HR department, IT department, and we go over very methodically questions that we've honed over the years using the different frameworks to give a very practical roadmap for an organization to reach cybersecurity maturity.
Okay, great. I don't know if you can share this, but you mentioned phishing training and essentially sending phishing scams to your clients, right? For creating that awareness. Of the phishing scams that you send out in the purpose of training, what is the kind of open ratio and click ratio that people hit?
Yeah, no matter what the size, if it's a 100-person company or 500, it usually hovers around 10 to 12%.
Okay.
And then after our trainings, it does go down. All it takes is one for an entire organization to go down. So that's our goal, to make sure that nobody clicks on it. But typically, without any training or anything like that, 10 to 12% is the average click rate. And, it depends on how sophisticated you want it. If you want to send out a phishing email that says everybody in the company is going to be laid off, see if your name's on the list, pretty much everybody's going to look. Or you can, it's a degree of difficulty of what you want to put on it.
Why do you think there is such a disconnect with phishing awareness and people just randomly clicking on things in emails? Why?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think, like me, I grew up with email. I literally had email in high school. I had AOL back 24
I
years
remember
ago.
AOL.
And you had to wait for it to sign on and all that. That was exciting. But back then we didn't really have to worry about all that much. It's only been in the recent 5 to 10 years that the whole ransomware and all the other malwares that are out there have really taken shape. And since COVID, the whole shutdown of the world,
Sure.
everything has been moved online. So a lot of us are still in the mindset of pre ransomware and pre where it was a really big problem. And obviously, it's starting to take off like crazy with all the incidents and the amount of money that the criminals are making. I would also say the amount of emails that we get just makes it too dizzying to try to keep and decipher and discern which is a legitimate email, which isn't an email. So between our old habits and the amount of emails that we get today, unless you're trained and have it down to a very quick science, there's a very good possibility that you would click on something.
Sure. So if I get an email from someone and I intentionally or accidentally click on that and it turns out to be a phishing scam, what would you say my immediate next steps are?
Yeah, well, I guess it would depend on what the hacker's intent would be. When you
Okay.
click on that, you could potentially be downloading malware and ransomware right on the. They could be sending you to another website that asks for your credentials. You think it's Amazon, and it looks like Amazon, smells like Amazon, but if you paid attention to the URL, there's a little Enye above the end, so it's not really Amazon, and you enter in your credentials. So if you're aware of it, the first thing you should do is let your IT know, your MSP know, and they'll
Okay.
contact their cybersecurity. We always say that if your computer does get infected, don't turn it off, but disconnect from the internet. You want to disconnect from the outside world, but you want to keep the computer on so that the logs can be retrieved during forensics, and you can see just how bad the situation is.
Now, I'm sure there's a lot of companies that need to do this, and I'm sure there's a lot of companies that do this, but not all those companies have an internal IT department. For Keystone Cyber Services, I'm sure that that complements your phishing training. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we actually have a service called a VCSO, a Virtual Security Information Security Officer, where we could
Okay.
be that security person from afar, where we would do everything, with our services. We would do the phishing test, security awareness training. We would do the risk assessments, and then we'd stay on top and be your go-to person for cybersecurity. You're right. Every company that has email and client information should have some sort of cybersecurity package built into their processes. And more and more MSPs are looking to add that to their stack. Some of them don't want to add it, but they want to have that as a component, and that's where we come in. We're a great partner for managed service providers. Our owner and founder used to work for an MSP, so we are very MSP friendly. He
Sure.
reminds us of that constantly, that we need to work together with the MSP, not against them.
It's funny you mentioned that. I actually had a call this morning from someone out where I am, and I'm in Boulder, Colorado. Someone who called me and he was asking for help, saying that his browser seems like it's got some malware on because people are trying to log into the websites that he hosts for all his clients. So I understand where you're coming from, and I understand, like in that situation, that person did not have what you call as a virtual CIO, essentially. So yes, absolutely. Now, Chris, you're obviously in the cyber world. You're obviously in the phishing world. Keystone, are you around the country or are you operating specifically in location?
Yeah, so we're headquartered in New Jersey, Lakewood,
Okay.
New Jersey to be specific. But we do have clients all up and down the East Coast. We have clients internationally. It's funny, just last weekend, I woke up at 6 in the morning to do a training internationally because Sunday morning at 6:30 a.m. was the only time that their clients could do it. And I did a virtual training for an hour on a Sunday morning. So, no matter the time zone or the location, we will find out a way to make sure you get the best cybersecurity services possible.
Well, rather you than me on a Sunday morning. Thank you very much.
But I
All right.
love giving
So
the trainings. That's really my passion, is to train people who really think cybersecurity is over their head. But the way we train and deliver our content really makes it practical for the everyday user to even use in their personal lives. It's one of those trainings. I always joke, this is one of the trainings that you can use both personally and professionally,
sure.
unless you don't use email or the internet, which is pretty
Sure.
much
Get it.
everybody.
All right. Great. So Keystone, I understand you're in New Jersey. There are a lot of cybersecurity companies nowadays, and each one has their own unique deliverable, their own unique service that they offer. I'm sure there are many other services that provide phishing training and cyber response services. What about Keystone makes you guys unique or different from those other guys?
Yeah, so I'd want to go back to our security awareness training. We do an excellent job of that, and I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the trainers, but the content that our yeah, I know. I'm not just saying that because I'm one of the trainers. I'm saying that because of the content that is made in our office by others, my colleagues, is just something like I've never seen before. That it's so practical, it's fun, engaging, and even through virtual security awareness trainings, we're able to reach the client. Again, people who got up at 6 o'clock in the morning and said, "Thank you very much for this training. It's one of the best trainings I ever had." And so we bring our security awareness training to really increase the culture of cybersecurity within an entity that then makes the MSP's job easier. We do an excellent job on our risk assessments. They're very thorough. We have a lot of experience in asking the right questions and then delving deeper into what possible vulnerabilities an organization has. And we just are very hands on, and we want to make sure that the MSP and our clients are extremely happy, and we go above and beyond to make sure that happens.
So, for our audience that are considering some of your services, do you, as Keystone, focus on any industries or are you open to any industries sourcing your services?
Yeah, we'll help anybody that needs help, but we do focus on the financial industry, healthcare industry, mostly private sector. I know there's a lot of
Okay,
organizations out there that work in the public sector, which then entails a lot of state mandated paperwork and things like that. But we mostly stick to the private sector, definitely in the financial, the title, the real estate, doctors' offices. Whoever needs compliance, we're big on that. We do a lot in the Northeast with DFS in New York City and
sure.
all the other regulations and compliances. So we're pretty well versed in that. And we make sure that not only are you compliant, but our number one priority is that you're safe.
Got it. And you mentioned earlier on that you love training. What your background, are you naturally a trainer or how did you get into this field?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I actually, long story short, my first half of my career was in government and politics. And so I worked in the United States government. I worked in Washington, D.C., not doing anything cyber related, but I worked at the White
Sure.
House, the Pentagon. Then I came back home to New Jersey, worked in the mayor of Atlantic City's office. And then just with life circumstances, having kids, it was time to settle down a little bit. I couldn't go out late at night to all the festivities. So I actually became a teacher. I had my
Oh,
certificate for many, many years, and I became a public school teacher for about 3 years. Always wanted to do it, but just never had the opportunity. And I had the unique opportunity to be a teacher prior to the pandemic, during the pandemic, and post pandemic. So I was in the classroom, and then I was teaching virtually, and then back into the classroom after things started to get better. And I just saw when we came back into the classroom, every kid was glued to their cell phones, iPhone
sure.
or Androids, and their Chromebooks. And literally, one hand had the Chromebook, one hand had the cell phone. And I'm like, their entire world is online right now. And these are 12, 13-year-old kids.
Yeah,
Where are we going to be 15 to 20 years from now? So, using my teaching background, I called Keystone. They were in my county where I live, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about transitioning into cybersecurity. I see the need. This is my background. I was a teacher in the public school system. Is there anything I can do to help for an entry level?" And Mr. Freed, the owner, said, "I'm so glad you called. I need somebody to go into companies and teach them on how not to get hacked. We'll give you the materials. I just need somebody to communicate it in a way that they'll understand." And I said, "Well,
sure.
for the past 3 years, I've taught sixth graders about the Revolutionary War. I think I could teach about cybersecurity."
Sure. No, I get that, right? Sounds like you've had a very eventful and experience history. So I'm very glad that someone in your caliber is actually teaching communities about this. I think absolutely a need that we need. Chris, we have a couple of minutes left. Before we close out today, is there anything that you would like to close with comments to our audience?
Yeah, so I think there's a lot of people like myself who don't connect cybersecurity and their everyday lives and how they can just really take simple steps not to get hacked. When I do these trainings, I always ask, has anyone ever had Microsoft call them? And somebody would usually say,
Sure.
well, my dad got a call from Microsoft and my dad gave them his username and password and they stole everything. Or people would get a call from Amazon that, there was a charge on their account and don't worry about it. We'll fix it for you. Just give us your username and password. Just the security awareness on the personal side, I think, is something that everybody should know. I teach my kids, they're young still, but I teach them
Sure.
different ways to protect themselves online and to really that this is a career field that I think is just beginning. I know it's been around for a while, but given the amount of money the criminals are making in the past 5 to 10 years, I don't see it going away. And we need more and more cyber defenders. We need young men and women to join the ranks of find a spot somewhere in cyber. You could be the marketing person. Companies
Sure.
need marketing and sales to get their products out there. Or you could be the trainer like me, or you could be the hands-on tech. If you love tech, there's different ways that you can get involved. So I think cybersecurity has something in it for everybody from the defensive point of view. And I just think we need more quality defenders out there.
Yeah, we hear it time and time again. A lot of the people we speak to, a lot of the companies we communicate with, everyone is literally dying and begging for trained professionals in this industry. So I 100% agree with you. Chris, we've run out of time, but for our viewers, if anyone wants to know more about Keystone Cyber Protection, please reach out to Chris, or their website is below. Feel free to go and have a look. And if you are in the need for any sort of phishing or cyber defenses, please reach out to them. Chris, I thank you very much for your time today.
All right, Dave. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.